So I'm going to be demonstrating an oil pastel portrait and working with color and color theory and blending to show depth. And there's two main concepts I want to emphasize with it. And the first one is that we're going to be working it up as a whole. Anytime you start a new media and you're learning how to work with it, you want to make sure that as you're learning and as you draw, that as you're getting better and better, you're working up the whole thing. So you don't start with like one eyeball, make it really refined, and then by the time you get across the face and move, you might have better techniques and learn more here. This one will look out of place. So we're going to be working up with the shadows and the dark values all throughout the drawing, work it up as a whole, and then use the lighter colors as a blender with the other pieces and scruffling those other colors together. The other thing that's really important in working with color theory and sort of playing with your colors is that you are making sure that, and I'm totally lost my train of thought right now. Yes, that you can change the color, but not the value. So we'll be playing with blues and greens and looking at what the complements are for the shadows, but I want to make sure that the dark stay dark and the light stay light, or it won't make sense in the space anymore. So I'm looking at the beautiful skin tone here, and she's got these really nice subtle peaches, some kind of orangish colors in here, and then as I come over here, there's almost like a purple that I've put in here to bring this color in. And I'm keeping in mind, if I look at this and say, this looks like the main tones are sort of a neutral orange, it's not orange. These aren't like Skittle colors where, you know, like our skin is not going to be super bright colors. They're colors that exist in life, are not going to be those bright colors like in a Skittles bag or like just out of the tube paint. So I need to figure out how to make them become more realistic looking. And to do that, I still want to play up and have a little fun and see some greens and blues and things to make it a more activated, interesting surface in the drawing. But I'm going to say, all right, if I'm going to start with orange, to kind of start with this skin tone, how do I make it not look like alien orange? And so I'm going to dull it. Well, if you dull a color, you need to add its complement. So if I'm looking at the color wheel, if I'm starting with orange, I need to add blue in the shadows. And I noticed in here it says she likes pink, so I want to add some other pinks. A pink is a light red, so there's going to be some greens in there too to counteract the light pinks. And I'm noticing here there's sort of this soft peachish color, which is like a tint of orange, maybe a little more warmth to it. Maybe this kind of goes closer to reds in here, and that's going to take me more this way. So I'm going to play with all kinds of colors, analogous colors in these areas, which are ones next to each other on the color wheel, and then complementary colors in the shadows, which is the ones across from the color wheel. So that was sample number one that I worked with. And now I'm going to work on the next one. Now with her, there's similar skin tone, but her skin is a little bit darker. And I'm going to play up a little more, I think, with this sort of reddish look. So if I know that I'm going to go with this to be kind of this red-orange as my main, it's a vermilion hue, it says. It's kind of my main color that I'm going to dull and work with. So if I'm starting with that, this is really a red-orange. I need some blue-green in my shadows. And if I look here, I think I'm going to go to some of these over here. This one looks like a nice dark, I like this one better. A nice dark blue-green that's going to be in the shadows. Now if I look at her face, I don't go, oh, there's blue-green. I don't see that. But that and this together is going to help me get this edge. I also want to, I like this purple. I think I'm going to bring in some of this purple to kind of give it looks like it's a color that might work with a similar value and have another interesting color to bring into it. And because this is an orange, I don't want to forget about blue. Now I'm not going to pick a blue like this blue to put in my shadows because it's going to be, I have to keep the value the same, but change the color. So if I use this, it's not going to be the same value. That's a light blue. So I might also use some of this real nice dark blue in my shadows. So I'm going to start with these, and I have the habit of, when I start drawing, I keep all these colors in my hand at one time to work with them and figure out what's what. And I want to create a likeness. I'm really concerned with learning in this project how to build depth and value and play with color theory. So I'm not as concerned about getting the proportions right. That's a different project for a different time. So therefore I trace these so I can really get her proportions and get a likeness to her more easily. So I'm taking the dark blue probably to start, and I'm going to start in here on her neck, and I'm going to put these dark blues And I'm going very lightly. I don't want to press very hard because I want to have room to blend. If I press too hard with the oil pastels, then I don't have much room. They don't want to blend very much. I'm going to get like a mud on my page very quickly. So, and I'm not doing the darks in her eyebrows yet because they kind of sit on top of the skin. I'm gonna do colors for the skin first, and then I'm gonna put these colors in. And right now I'm just laying the color down. I'm just getting a value in place. So I'm not concerned about my mark as much. I am gonna do some work to try and follow, especially on her skin, some directional line. This is lighter, so there might be a little bit here to show some shadow, but not as much. There's some around her eyes. I'm going to be really careful around her eyes because I want to get a likeness. So I want to capture the shape of her eyes, and I want to capture the shadow, but I want to go too far into it. So with that, I'm gonna go back. I wanted this blue-green to really counteract that orange, so I gotta make sure I don't do too much with the blue and get some of that green in there. I did a little more than I intended to originally. But now I'm gonna come in here, there's shadow there, there's shadow there. Maybe I'll add some more in here to get these colors. There's a movement in her hair, like it's coming around her head. So I'm gonna bring this here. Mr. K is yelling next door. Alright, so I get a little more of this shadow around here. Bring this in. There's some shadow in here. Probably should have shut the door. There's a little bit of shadow here. Some shadow in here. Now, would you guess that this is going to be blues and greens? Probably not. I wouldn't look at that and go, oh, I need blue and green first without knowing color theory. So I'm going to come back, leave these here so I can come back to them. Now maybe I'll bring in some of this purple where it's not quite as dark, because there's a warmth to this. This lends itself a little more to the shadows that are kind of medium shadows. Bring this here. This is pretty dark. I probably should add. And I'll work back and forth. And this is a little bit here. There's some shadow in here. And again, I'm keeping it really light as I'm building the surface. And I'm thinking of directional shading. Like so. And then I'm constantly referring to the photo. This is not like color in the numbers. I want to constantly go back. And if I want a crisper edge, I can come up to this and use the other side of the pastel where it hasn't been used yet, so it's a little bit more of a crisp line. And then I might come up this way and come up this way. I'm adding a little bit more pressure just to solidify those edges. I should have done a little more shadow here in her lips. The top lip tends to have a shadow on the bottom of it, and the bottom lip tends to have a highlight on the top as they hit the light as it curves. A bit more here. And then I would start to come in with my base color, the one I'm going to use, and I'm going to do a scruffling motion. And I'm going to use that. I'm kind of going in the direction of the skin, but not entirely. How you doing up there? You can fall over? Okay, good. To use it as a blender. And right now it's looking pretty bright compared to her skin, so I might need to go back, add a little bit more of that green to tone it down, the blue-green, scruffle it around, blend it in. And I like the motion of the surface. I like how this activates the surface and gives it this interesting look. I can always add a little more of the complement or a darker analogous color to activate that. And I would continue this whole thing. I'm going to continue working right here just so you can see it, but I would work this all the way around next. Keep going, we're doing good. I'm going to go for a couple more minutes. All right, then, so I get this here. Now, there's almost like a peachish color here. It's not quite white, But I could take a lighter color, and the lighter colors, this one's real dirty, so I'm gonna clean it off a little bit. I like to keep a paper towel or something next to me to get the colors off. And then this is the scruffling motion. Scruffling. It's scribbling, but it's artistic, so it has a fancy name. I'm scruffling now. I'm taking the scruffling technique and moving it around the page. See, doesn't it sound fancier than scribbling? There you go. And then I got a little bit in here. And I continue to work to bring these things together. And I might say, all right, this needs to be a little darker now that I've done this. And it's looking, this is a cool peach. I don't like how cool that is. I'm gonna warm it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna put just a little bit of yellow in here. And I keep playing with the colors and building the colors to get an interesting build up. And I would continue to work that way around the whole page. Kind of like that. Thanks.